The first thing the stranger got right was the lamp. He typed, "The one behind you is flickering again." I hadn't mentioned a lamp. I hadn't turned on a camera. And until that message appeared, I was sure the person I was playing with lived somewhere in Ohio. This happened when I was 23 and renting the back half of a duplex in Boise, Idaho. I worked evening support for a medical software company, so my schedule was backward. I finished around 11, made something quick to eat, and usually played online for an hour before bed. The duplex was small, living room in front, kitchen in the middle, bedroom and bathroom at the back. My desk sat in the bedroom beside a narrow window facing the alley. The landlord had installed a cheap smart speaker in the hall, but I barely used it. That night I joined a cooperative survival game with someone whose username was Palemoth. We had played twice before. He was quiet, knew the game, and never asked personal questions. About 20 minutes in, my desk lamp blinked. The bulb had been doing that for weeks. A few seconds later, Palemoth sent the message about it. I took my hands off the keyboard. I checked the small camera above my monitor. A piece of black tape covered it, exactly where I had put it months earlier. I asked how he knew. He answered, "Lucky guess." Then he added, "Your heater is loud too." The wall heater had just clicked on behind me. I left the game and opened the list of connected devices on my router. I recognized my laptop, phone, television, and speaker. One device was listed only as Linux. I blocked it, changed the wireless password, and unplugged the smart speaker. For maybe 30 seconds, the house was completely quiet. Then a man's voice came from the unplugged speaker in the hallway. That won't help. I did not go into the hall. I called my friend Noah, who lived 10 minutes away, and kept him on the line while I checked the lock on the bedroom door. The duplex had old hollow doors, and the lock was the kind meant for privacy, not security. Noah told me to leave through the bedroom window. I was on the ground floor, but the window faced a narrow alley boxed in by fences. To open it, I would have to raise the blinds and stand in front of the glass. While we were talking, a notification appeared on my laptop. Palemoth had invited me back into the game. The message under the invitation said, "The window is worse." I looked at the blinds. One slat near the bottom was bent upward. I had noticed it before, but now I could see a tiny point of blue-white light through the gap, low and steady, like the screen of a phone held outside. I turned off the lamp. The light outside disappeared at the same moment. Then the bedroom doorknob moved. It did not rattle like someone forcing it. It turned slowly until the cheap lock stopped it. The pressure remained for 2 or 3 seconds, then released. I had been thinking the person was in the alley. That was the moment I understood there might be someone inside the duplex too. Noah called 911 from his phone while I pushed my desk against the door. I heard one soft step in the hall, then another. The floorboards made a particular dry snap near the bathroom. Whoever was out there found it. The game invitation appeared again. "Don't make this loud." I picked up a metal flashlight from my desk and hit the window with its base. The glass cracked but did not fall. I hit it again. That made enough noise for a porch light to come on across the alley. The pressure left the bedroom door. I heard fast movement through the kitchen, followed by the rear door opening and slamming against the outside wall. I stayed behind the desk until police arrived. They found the back door unlocked. There were wet marks on the kitchen floor even though it had not rained, and a short Ethernet cable had been plugged into the router behind my television. The other end disappeared through a hole in the baseboard into the vacant front unit of the duplex. The landlord had given a contractor access to that unit during the previous week. The contractor denied leaving the cable and said several workers had been inside. No one could identify who used the gaming account. A technician later told me my smart speaker had a battery that could keep it alive briefly after being unplugged. Its account had also been accessed from a device on the same local network. That explained the voice. It did not explain how long someone had been watching before I noticed. I moved out before the end of the month. I deleted the game account and changed every password I had. 3 weeks later, Noah sent me a screenshot. Pale Moth had added him as a friend. The account's status said, "New room, same lamp." For 5 mornings in a row, Marcus Vale found his kitchen window open exactly 3 inches. He told himself the latch was worn. Then he tied the latch shut with wire. The next morning, the wire was still twisted in place, but the window was open. Marcus was 36 and had recently bought a 1940s bungalow in Tacoma, Washington. He worked as an insurance adjuster and spent several days each week driving to properties around Pierce County. The house needed work, but the neighborhood was quiet and the price had been low because the previous owner had started renovations and never finished them. The kitchen had mismatched cabinets, an old linoleum floor, and a narrow pantry built against an interior wall. Marcus usually left by 7 in the morning and returned after dark. He lived alone, and the only other person with a key was his sister, Elena, who lived across town. The first time he found the window open, he blamed himself. The second time, he checked every lock before bed. On the third morning, a chair he kept near the pantry was angled toward the window. Nothing was missing. He replaced the latch and put a wooden dowel in the track. The next morning, the dowel was lying on the counter. The window was open 3 inches. That was when he called Elena. She came over and helped him check the attic, basement, and detached garage. They found no broken entry point. Elena suggested a camera. Marcus placed one on top of the refrigerator facing the window and pantry. At 2:41 a.m., the recording changed exposure as the refrigerator light briefly reflected off something near the cabinets. Then the narrow pantry door opened by less than an inch. The camera captured no face. A hand appeared low beside the pantry, reached across the floor, lifted the wooden dowel out of the window track, and placed it on the counter. The hand then opened the window. Marcus watched the clip at work the next morning. He did not return home alone. He called police and met them outside with Elena. The officers searched the pantry. It was shallow, barely deep enough for canned food, but when one officer removed 2 shelves, he found that the back panel had been cut loose and held in place with small magnets painted the same color as the wall. Behind it was a vertical service chase between the kitchen and chimney. It was wider than it looked from the room, maybe 20 inches in places, and dropped into an unfinished section of the basement. They found a blanket, plastic bottles, protein bar wrappers, a headlamp, and a copied key to the back door. They did not find the person who had been using them. Marcus stayed with Elena that night. A locksmith changed every exterior lock, and a contractor sealed the pantry wall with plywood and screws. 2 nights later, the kitchen camera sent a motion alert. The sealed panel did not move. The window did. It opened 3 inches from the inside. Marcus called police again. This time, the search found a second opening behind the lower cabinet beside the stove. It connected to the same chase and had been hidden behind a removable toe kick. The officer believed the person had remained inside the wall during the first search and left after everyone was gone. Dust near the basement window showed a fresh slide mark. A shoe print outside led only as far as the alley pavement. Marcus sold the house 6 months later. Before listing it, he had the cabinets removed and every cavity opened. The contractor found one more thing. On the inside of the wall, at about eye level, someone had drilled a line of tiny holes through the drywall behind the kitchen calendar. From the room, they looked like old nail marks. From inside the wall, they gave a clear view of the table, the back door, and most of the living room. Marcus had lived there for 11 weeks before the window first opened. He still does not know whether that was when the person entered or simply when they decided to let him know they were there. Aaron Pierce knew the photographs were recent because the shirt on his bedroom floor was still there. He was wearing it in the first picture. In the second, he was asleep. In the last picture, the bed was empty and the blanket was pulled back, even though Aaron remembered waking up under it that morning. Aaron was 31 and worked overnight medical billing from a rented townhouse in Richmond, Virginia. His block consisted of narrow brick homes sharing party walls. The unit on his right had been vacant for months after a water leak damaged the upstairs ceiling. At around 6 on a Tuesday evening, Aaron found a small brown package inside his storm door. It had no shipping label and no writing. He assumed a neighbor had left it at the wrong house. Inside were 8 glossy photographs and nothing else. The earliest showed him sitting at his desk through the open bedroom door. Another showed him asleep from the foot of the bed. The final image showed the empty bed. Aaron called his landlord, Denise, then the police. An officer checked the doors and windows. There was no forced entry. Aaron's laptop, wallet, and camera equipment were untouched. The officer photographed the photographs and advised him to stay elsewhere while the landlord changed the locks. Denise arrived with a maintenance worker. When Aaron showed her the angle of the sleeping photographs, she stood near the bedroom closet and looked toward the bed. "This was taken from here," she said. The closet covered most of the shared wall with the vacant unit. It was packed with Aaron's clothes and storage boxes. Behind a tall wardrobe, the wallpaper had separated in a straight vertical line. The maintenance worker moved the wardrobe. A rectangular section of drywall shifted when he pressed it. Behind it was an old doorway that had been covered when the building was divided decades earlier. Someone had cut through the drywall on the vacant side and loosened Aaron's side from behind. The panel could be pushed inward just far enough for a person to enter the closet. Police searched the vacant townhouse. They found a folding chair, bottled water, and a phone charger in the upstairs room adjoining Aaron's bedroom. A fresh rectangle in the dust showed where a small bag or case had been sitting. They also found a cheap instant print camera. Its memory card was gone. Aaron stayed with his brother while the doorway was sealed with brick and mortar. Denise arranged for a security company to inspect both units. The company found that the vacant townhouse's rear basement door could be opened with an old utility key that had never been replaced. For a week, nothing else happened. Then Aaron received an email from an address made of random numbers. The subject line contained only the date he had found the package. There was one attachment, a photograph of the police carrying the folding chair out of the vacant house. It had been taken from somewhere across the street. Aaron forwarded it to the detective. They checked nearby doorbell cameras, but the clearest recording showed only a dark sedan leaving several minutes after the police arrived. The plate was unreadable. Aaron broke the lease and moved to an apartment building with controlled entry. He told almost no one the new address. 2 months later, the landlord called. Renovators had opened the rest of the shared wall. Inside the cavity, they found dozens of small pencil marks recording dates and times. Some went back more than a year before Aaron rented the townhouse. Next to several dates was a single word: awake or asleep. The marks stopped on the night the package was delivered. Aaron asked the landlord to photograph them. She did. At the bottom, below the final date, someone had written a new address. It was not Aaron's new apartment. It was his brother's house, the place where he had stayed after finding the photographs. Rachel Dunn's mother was calling from the front yard. The problem was that Rachel was already on the phone with her. Rachel was 29 and lived in a small house outside Boone, North Carolina. She did freelance bookkeeping and was used to working alone. Her nearest neighbor was around 200 yards away through the trees. and the road below the house was difficult to see from the porch. One October night, a severe storm moved across the mountains. Rain hit the windows hard enough to hide smaller sounds. The power blinked twice but stayed on. Rachel's mother, Linda, lived near Greensboro. They had been talking for about 10 minutes when Rachel heard someone outside say, "Rach, open the door. My phone's dead." It was Linda's voice. Rachel stopped talking. Linda asked what was wrong. The voice outside repeated the sentence with the same tired little laugh Linda used when she had forgotten something. Rachel walked to the front hall but did not turn on the porch light. Through the narrow window beside the door, she could see rain, the edge of the steps, and part of the yard. No car was in the drive. Linda told her to lock the bedroom windows and call 911. Before Rachel could move, the voice outside said, "I can see you by the door." She backed into the hallway. The voice moved toward the side of the house. A few seconds later, it came from outside the kitchen window. "Rach, honey, it's cold." Linda heard it through the phone. She started crying, but Rachel told her to stay quiet. Rachel called 911 from a second phone and gave her address in a whisper. The dispatcher told her deputies were coming from town and that the storm would slow them down. Rachel locked herself in the upstairs bathroom because it had no exterior door and only one small window above the shower. Then a man's voice called from below. It sounded like Rachel's younger brother, Evan. "Rachel, Mom fell. Come outside." Evan lived in Charlotte. He used the exact phrase he had said years earlier when Linda slipped on ice behind their old house. Rachel remembered the call because it had terrified her at the time. Someone tried the kitchen window. The frame gave a short wooden knock, then another. Rachel pressed a towel against the gap under the bathroom door so the light would not show. She could hear the recorded voices moving around the house, Linda at the front, Evan near the kitchen, then Linda again beneath the bathroom window. They were not speaking naturally anymore. The same sentences repeated with identical pauses. Rachel used the car remote in her pocket to trigger the panic alarm. The horn began blasting in the driveway. The voices stopped. Something struck the back door once, hard. Rachel heard running through wet leaves, then an engine starting somewhere below the house. Deputies arrived 18 minutes later. They found pry marks on the kitchen window and a muddy shoe print on the lower porch step. Under a rhododendron beside the front walk, they found a weatherproof Bluetooth speaker wrapped in a black plastic bag. The speaker contained a memory card with dozens of short audio clips. Some were taken from public family videos. Others came from private voice messages Rachel and Linda had exchanged. That meant someone had accessed at least one of their accounts. The deputies also found tire tracks on a gravel turnout below the property, but the rain destroyed most of the pattern. No one was arrested. Rachel changed her accounts, replaced the windows, and moved closer to town the following spring. Linda stopped leaving voice messages for months. A detective returned the memory card after the case went inactive. Rachel copied the files before placing it in a safe. There was one clip she did not recognize. It was only 9 seconds long. At first it sounded like rain and static. Then Rachel heard herself whispering her address to the 911 dispatcher from inside the upstairs bathroom. The recording had been made while the speaker was still outside, which meant the people in the yard were not only playing old voices, they were listening to hers in real time.